What might the government be hiding? A realistic look at modern conspiracy claims. For as long as governments have existed, so too has public suspicion, and not without reason. While wild conspiracy theories often grab headlines, history shows that secrecy, manipulation, and even unethical experimentation have occurred behind closed doors. In the case of the United States, some of the most talked about conspiracies aren't entirely fiction, but rooted in real programs, declassified documents, and unexplained events that continue to raise questions. From UFO encounters and mind control experiments to the suppression of energy innovations and the possibility of false flag operations, these topics represent areas where the government's past behavior justifies public doubt. This doesn't mean every theory is true, but it does mean the door isn't fully closed on what may still be hidden. In this breakdown, we'll explore 5 key topics often cited by skeptics and realists alike. Not to promote paranoia, but to understand why people ask these questions, and how much truth might lie beneath the surface. 1. UFOs and extraterrestrial life, a realistic perspective. For decades, the US government denied the existence of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, or dismissed reports as weather balloons, optical illusions, or experimental aircraft. However, recent developments have changed the tone significantly. In 2020 and 2021, the Pentagon officially declassified several videos captured by Navy pilots showing unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, that demonstrated flight capabilities beyond known human technology, such as rapid acceleration, lack of visible propulsion, and high maneuverability. The US government has since established official task forces, such as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, to study these occurrences. Congressional hearings have even featured testimony from former intelligence and military officials who claim the government may possess materials or craft of non-human origin. While there is no definitive public proof of alien life, it is entirely realistic to assume that the US government may know more than it reveals, not out of malice or conspiracy, but potentially for reasons of national security. The fear of public panic, geopolitical ramifications, or the race to reverse engineer advanced technologies could explain why some information might remain classified. In this light, it's not irrational to believe that some data about UFO encounters has been withheld. What was once fringe speculation is now part of serious government inquiry, making the question not, do UFOs exist, but what exactly are they, and who might be behind them? 2. Secret mind control programs, a realistic perspective. The idea that the US government has experimented with mind control isn't purely the stuff of conspiracy theories, it's a documented part of Cold War history. From the 1950s through the 1970s, the CIA conducted a series of covert experiments under the name MKUltra, aiming to explore methods of controlling human behavior. These experiments involved the use of drugs, notably LSD, sensory deprivation, hypnosis, and psychological torture, often performed without the subject's knowledge or consent. Declassified documents and Senate hearings in the 1970s confirmed MKUltra's existence, revealing deeply unethical practices. In one infamous case, a man named Frank Olson, a government scientist, died under suspicious circumstances after being unknowingly dosed with LSD. His death was initially ruled a suicide, but decades later, evidence surfaced suggesting he may have been silenced. The real concern isn't that mind control technology exists in the science fiction sense, it doesn't. But MKUltra proves that the government was willing to manipulate and experiment on civilians and military personnel for psychological influence. That precedent gives conspiracy theorists a reason to believe similar programs could still be operating under new names or through private contractors, particularly in areas like surveillance, psychological warfare, or even targeted advertising and behavior prediction. While much of what's said today about mind control is highly speculative, the core truth remains unsettling. The government has, in the past, deliberately crossed ethical lines in pursuit of psychological influence. That makes it reasonable, if not proven, to question what limits still exist today, and whether they're always followed. 3. Suppression of free energy technology, a realistic perspective. The notion that the US government or major corporations might suppress groundbreaking energy technologies isn't entirely implausible when considered through the lens of economic and political power. The core of this theory is the idea that clean, virtually unlimited energy, such as free energy derived from zero-point fields, magnetic resonance, or advanced solar conversion, has either already been discovered or is on the verge of being discovered, but is being suppressed to protect the interests of the fossil fuel, defense, and utility industries. Historically, powerful innovations have sometimes been buried or delayed when they posed a threat to dominant economic models. One frequently cited example is Nikola Tesla, who was working on wireless energy transmission in the early 20th century. While some of his ideas were visionary and speculative, it's true that his funding was pulled when it became clear that wireless power couldn't be monetized in the same way as wired electricity. In the modern era, patent suppression is a documented phenomenon. The U.S. Patent Office can issue secrecy orders on patents that are considered a threat to national security. Thousands of these orders have been issued since the 1950s, some of them possibly involving energy technologies that could be disruptive or dual-use, civilian and military. This means that an inventor could legally be barred from discussing or developing a device that could, in theory, make the energy grid or fossil fuels obsolete. While there's no publicly verified example of a working, free energy device, the environment of corporate lobbying, classified research, and geopolitical control of energy resources makes the idea of suppression realistic in principle. Even incremental technologies, like advanced batteries, hydrogen fuel cells, or decentralized solar, have often met resistance from powerful lobbies. The conspiracy here doesn't require secret alien reactors, it just needs a system where innovation is slowed or silenced when it threatens entrenched power. And that's something history has shown to be possible. 4. False flag operations, a realistic perspective. A false flag operation refers to a covert act designed to appear as if it were carried out by someone else, typically used to justify war, political action, or sweeping policy changes. While the term often gets sensationalized, the concept is not purely theoretical, it has historical precedent, and some real-world examples lend credibility to concerns that such tactics could be used or considered by governments, including the U.S. For example, Operation Northwoods, a declassified plan from the 1960s, proposed by the U.S. Department of Defense, involved staging acts of terrorism on American soil, including hijackings and bombings, and blaming them on Cuba to build public support for an invasion. Although the operation was never approved or executed, its very existence shows that high-level officials were willing to propose deceptive tactics that risked civilian safety. This kind of documented history fuels skepticism surrounding major traumatic events. The 9/11 attacks, we're gonna talk about 9/11 and May 30th more, for instance, have been the subject of widespread speculation. Conspiracy theorists argue that inconsistencies in the official narrative, such as the rapid collapse of Building 7, intelligence failures, and unusually fast policy responses, like the Patriot Act, point to possible foreknowledge or even facilitation by government actors. While mainstream investigations like the 9/11 Commission found no supporting evidence of government involvement, the magnitude of the event and the dramatic policy shifts that followed leave room for critical questioning. It's important to distinguish between baseless theories and legitimate questions. Governments around the world, including democratic ones, have used crises, real or manufactured, to pass unpopular laws, expand surveillance, or justify military intervention. Whether or not a specific event was a false flag, the historical record confirms that the concept is more than just fiction. In that light, it's not unreasonable to stay vigilant and scrutinize events that lead to major shifts in power or policy, especially when transparency is lacking. If you like this video, please give us a like, leave a comment behind and don't forget to subscribe since we have a new video every week. Now let's roll back to the video. 5. False flag operations, a realistic perspective, short version. False flag operations, covert actions designed to appear as though carried out by another group, have real historical precedent. One example is Operation Northwoods, a 1962 plan proposed by U.S. military leaders to fake attacks on Americans and blame Cuba to justify war. Though never executed, its existence proves such ideas have been seriously considered at high levels. This background makes some people question whether events like 9/11 were used as a pretext for war or expanded government powers. While there's no proven evidence of U.S. involvement, the sudden policy shifts, like the Patriot Act, and intelligence failures surrounding the event raise valid concerns about transparency and government motives. In short, false flag operations are not mere fantasy, they've been planned before, and that alone makes it reasonable for people to question official narratives when major events lead to sweeping consequences. Conclusion: between secrecy and speculation. While not all conspiracy theories are grounded in reality, history shows that government secrecy is very real, and sometimes justified. The line between national security, public stability, and public deception can be a thin one. From declassified experiments like MKUltra to unexplained aerial encounters and buried patents, there are enough facts to warrant caution, critical thinking, and continued inquiry. Believing every theory without evidence is dangerous, but so is dismissing every concern as paranoia. A healthy society doesn't ignore uncomfortable questions, it investigates them transparently. In the end, asking what the government might be hiding isn't about distrust for the sake of it, it's about accountability, awareness, and the right to know the truth.